Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me I have a very special friend, Miss Jeanell Greene. I had a chat with her earlier, and she is amazing. She has some really good messages, and I felt that she was really on my side for a change. So I like that when somebody's on my side. So I'm going to have her talk all about herself and what she does and how she shows up in the world. Thank you, Jeanell, for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Tell the audience for us a little bit about yourself and why you do what you do and how you got here.
Got it. Thank you so much, Dr. L, for having me on your show. So, hi, everyone. My name is Jeanell, and I am a romance and relationship coach. And I work with men who really want to make a difference in their relationship, and really what they're looking for is more love and affection from their partner. And my mission is to transform the experience of what it means to be married and to help men take the relationship from okay to an oh wow. A little bit about me. I've been with my husband for 14 years, and he is my inspiration, and this is why I do what I do. We are extremely happy, and my commitment is that everyone in this world gets to experience that kind of level of happiness and partnership in their own marriages.
Cool.
Um,
One thing I was going to mention is that when I was talking to you, I kind of felt that you have a really good grasp of what guys think and feel. So I want you to tell me a little bit more about how that kind of transpired into what you're doing as well, because I think that it's very oftentimes like people can go see counselors or therapists, and sometimes you kind of feel like they're siding with one side or the other, or they don't quite get you and what is important to you. And
mm,
in talking to you, I felt that actually you really understand men really well. So tell us about that.
Thank you. Yeah. So, in a previous life, before I chose this path of, helping people transform their lives, I used to be in sales
Mm.
and specifically software sales. And I did that for about 10 years. And so the majority of the people I worked with were men, and my clients who owned businesses were men. And so I've developed over time this sort of level of straightness that is quite of a strong male energy, and being a high achiever and, being top in sales. It's just kind of allowed me to get really comfortable with that kind of communication. And so I feel, my clients appreciate the straightness that I give them, but with love and understanding. And so it's really great because with my husband and I, we kind of go back and forth as well between our feminine and male energies. And so it really works. And, what's different about me is that I can actually straddle that fence. I can, put on my female hat and take that off and put on the male hat. And so I'm able to see it from both sides and really help men understand why women may react or think a certain way
Mm.
in a way that they really get it.
Okay, awesome. So tell us a little bit about your current business and what you specifically do as far as in this field, in this particular area.
Yeah, so I work mostly with men that have been married for several number of years, and they're just starting to notice that, perhaps their partner is unhappy. And sometimes women have a difficult time asking for what they want. And sometimes we don't even know what that is. We just feel a certain discontentment, and we express that. And sometimes men don't know what to do with that, and they're not sure what's expected of them. And I'll be honest, women tend to have this "you should know by now" or "you should be able to read my mind" kind of attitude. And so men are kind of left confused and maybe a little clueless and frustrated, because really men just want to make their partner happy. Men know that when their women are happy, that he gets to be happy. And so, but sometimes, communication styles just don't jive. We're not on the same page, and people are left feeling, you know, disconnected, frustrated, And perhaps there may be a sense that your partner doesn't care, but really it's just, we're just not speaking the same language. And we're
And
expecting our partner to react and think the way we think, which doesn't work.
right, absolutely. Actually, one of the things as a clinical neuroscientist I know is that the male and the female brain are different. They're built differently and they're anatomically different and they function very differently as well. So, so thank you
Mhm.
for mentioning that. And actually, this is important because you mentioned you've been married for 14 years, and it's important because as you go through the years, you need to also be able to grow together as well, right? Because we change over time as well, and we need to be able to maintain our connectedness, like you were saying, right?
Absolutely. And, during COVID, I think that has really allowed many people to wake up to the reality of their relationship. I have a friend who, him and her husband, him and her wife, his wife, there we go, worked different shifts and they would only see each other once a week. And that worked for them. But now, now that we're, at home more, there are new challenges that they're facing that they never had to deal with before. And in our case, with my husband and I, we've worked really, really hard to support each other during this pandemic, emotionally. My husband works for a payroll company. And so the first couple of months, all he was dealing with were layoffs, terminations, ROEs. And it really took a toll on his emotional well-being. And, I had to step up and make sure that he was taken care of during that space. And then a few months later, I went through a very similar, you know, emotional challenge. And so we've actually gotten stronger. Our relationship has gotten a lot stronger. Our bond has gotten closer during this very vulnerable time.
That's wonderful to hear. Actually, one of the things I wanted to mention is because although we at Role Model Maker we focus on parents, traditionally a larger portion of our audience happens to be women, and
Mm,
it's nice to have you as somebody that can actually talk to women about men and also allow men to connect based on what you're saying as well. So tell us, what are the challenges that you typically see in relationships um,
mhm.
when people are out there, they've lived together for a while, and what are some of the challenges that you see? And then when they find you, what are the challenges that they need to overcome to kind
Mhm.
of move forward?
Yeah, great questions. So, actually, going off what you just said about the children, one of the things that I'm really committed to is, for me, it's not even just about two people staying together and lowering the divorce rate. Divorce rates are really high right now. And what's starting to evolve is, before it was the men that were initiating the divorces. And now it's actually 69% women initiating divorces. Yeah. And a lot of the time, the men have no clue where it's coming from. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. And so I really want to equip men as far as being aware of what's going on in the relationship versus hiding and avoiding some of the signs. And so going back to what I was saying, one of my clients was sharing with me that, he was okay with the dysfunction of the marriage, but what he wasn't okay with was the exposure of that negative energy to his children. That's what really concerned him. And the more I thought about that, I thought, yeah, here we are at this day and age where more and more people are okay with not being married. And a lot of times it's not that they feel better being alone, but they're afraid because their parents, the way they grew up, their parents were not loving with each other. So they're going, I don't want any of that. I'd rather be
Mm.
single than have to deal with that drama. And so for me, it's not just about the two parents, really about the future generations and giving them the opportunity to grow up in a home that's loving and supportive, and they really get to witness, what does partnership actually look like. One of the things I am so grateful for, we just had Thanksgiving. One of the things I'm so grateful for is that both me and my husband have really amazing parents who love each other. So we got to grow up in homes where we got to see what that looks like. But many people don't have that opportunity. And so that's part of why I'm so passionate about helping men understand their partners and everyone just being happy.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So, what are your tips and secrets on how to overcome the challenges? And I know we need to talk more about uh, the challenges that they have to overcome, because, of course, in relationships we settle into habits, right? And then those
Mhm.
become our new routines, and we don't think about it anymore. But oftentimes, those routines can also drift us apart as well. Correct?
Mhm. Mhm. I think one of the main things that I see, well, let me step back a second. I get a lot of questions about, Jeanell, how do you and your husband do it? How is it that for 14 years, you guys have been able to stay at the same pace emotionally, sexually, affectionately, all of that stuff consistently? And I would say one of the things that I see is that we get complacent. We wake up to the same person every morning. It's like, oh, it's you again. And we forget why we're there, and we forget the commitment that we made to that person, for better, for worse. And women, we just want to feel loved and special and heard and understood. And what I've seen is, as time goes, men just stop paying attention to their women. And she's putting all this energy to look good, she goes to the gym, she puts on her makeup, and the men don't pay attention and don't even notice. And she says, hello, can you please spend time with me? And the husband, men are wired to provide and protect. And sometimes they get so caught up in the providing that they forget to actually be there for their partner. And so the woman just starts to experience loneliness and starts to feel like that he doesn't care. And so she starts to pull away. And as she starts to pull away, then the husband will wonder, well, why have we stopped being intimate? Why doesn't she want to have sex with me? And she, all really, she doesn't feel like, she doesn't feel connected to her partner. So I think it's really important it's women or relationships is like a plant. You need to keep watering it. If you go too long not watering that plant is going to die. And I see this is one of the biggest mistakes I see from men is they go, when I have time, then I'll spend time with her. When I'm not busy at work, when I'm, it's like a when thing. And yet she's at home waiting for him and ready whenever he is
Mm.
to spend time with her. And after a long period of time, she just doesn't care anymore. And I'm speaking from experience. I've had that type of relationship, which ended in a divorce. And like I said before, I left him and he had no clue. He was surprised that I said I wasn't happy, even though we hadn't been intimate or, been on good terms for years. So I think another tip I could say is know what your partner's love language is.
Yes.
And don't assume that your love language, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's a book, The 5 Love Languages from Dr. John Gray. Or sorry, yes, Dr. John Gray, right?
John Gray, I think, is Mars
Or
and
Dr.
Venus.
Chapman,
Chapman,
Gary
yeah.
Chapman. Okay.
Yep.
Those are my 2 favorite books. I always get them confused. But, that I would say if there was one thing I can attribute the level of intimacy that me and my husband have with each other, it's because we know each other's love language so well. And the mistake I see is a lot of people assume that their partner shares the same love language as they do, right? So for example, for me, my love language is service. And so when my husband brings me a cup of coffee at 9 a.m. while I'm sitting in my office, to me, that is like, wow, this man really loves me. When I come home from groceries, as soon as he hears that garage door start to open, he is downstairs ready to take the bags even before I get out of the car. To me, that is like that. I'm speechless when he does that. That for me is love. For him, it's all about physical touch. When he's having a bad day, he just needs to be, I just need to offer that hug and give him 2 minutes to just come down from his emotional, height, and he's good. And so we know exactly what each other needs at those vulnerable moments. And we can continue to fill each other's love tank, as Dr. Chapman calls it. And so we're never feeling alone or that we're not a priority because we know exactly what the other person needs to feel loved. So knowing what your partner's love language and your own so that you can express that is really important.
And I encourage all of our audience as well to go ahead and actually learn your kids' love languages as well, how they
Yes.
wish to receive, how they express it, and kind of actually talk to them about it. Doesn't matter how young they are. A lot of times, when they see you in action, they might have a really good understanding of physical touch or quality time, but they might never get to see acts of service. So because that's
Mhm.
never expressed. But that might be something that would be their love language. So exploring these with your kids would be very, very important.
Yeah,
And bringing everybody together in communication, nonverbal communication, basically, right? Uh,
absolutely. Absolutely.
awesome. So, as far as the tips and secrets are concerned,
Hmm.
does it change based on how long the relationship has been going on, meaning that are the challenges and the requirements different when you have recently been married and trying to figure each other out and how to walk through life together versus when you have been together for many, many years, decades, and you think you know each other, like you were talking about, for instance, taking the other person for granted, but
Yeah.
it could be based on the fact that, hey, you know what, I've lived with this person for 20 years. I know all there is to know about this person. And then you stop discovering and asking, right? To
Yeah,
learn more about this person, correct?
absolutely. I think that generally there is sort of the phases that we go through, right? In the beginning, it's about how do I take two completely different human beings and like make that work, right?
Right,
Trying to figure out the dynamic, right? Especially
right.
when you start living together,
Mhm.
who's going to do the laundry, who's going to cook, who's going to clean, all that kind of thing. In my situation, in my first marriage, um, our issue actually happened really quickly. It was almost as though when we came home from our honeymoon, he was a completely different person. It was like, okay, I'm done, check mark, I'm married, don't need to try anymore, don't need to put any effort.
Mm.
Um, but generally speaking, right, we kind of go through the adjustment phase, and then, like you said, after maybe perhaps 20 years or even 10 years, we start to get complacent. We stop creating a future together, right? When we're engaged, we talk about the someday, where we're going to live, how many kids we're going to have. But then after a certain amount of time, we stop creating, we stop communicating, and we stop dreaming as a couple. And that's when things start to just kind of go, you just sort of coast, right? And it's not wrong. However, start to lose that passion and that playfulness. I think playfulness is something that is so important, whether you're 40 or 80. If you can laugh together, like me and my husband laugh nonstop. We were like two little kids who just we're dorks together. But I think as long as you can continue to entertain each other, especially during COVID, you can't see anybody else. You're stuck together. Why not have fun? We do kickboxing in the morning. We learned how to do couples massage together. We picked up some Gordon Ramsay recipes and started to tinker around with that. And we just had a lot of fun. And so I don't, my message is that it doesn't have to go a certain way just because you've been married for so long. It can be just as exciting and as passionate as it was in the early days. And, I believe that me and my husband are proof of that.
Good. No, awesome. Thank you, Janelle. Tell us a little bit more about your programs and what you do, the specifics of it, and what you're currently working on. And also, how can people find out and learn more about you and what you have to offer?
Yeah, I have a couple different programs. I sort of have the mini offer as well as I have my signature offer, which is a 6-week program.
Mhm.
And really what it's around is the communication piece. You know, when we hear the word communication, what automatically comes to our mind? It's this. But
Right.
communication is so much more than that, especially for women. It's body language, it's the love language, it's the non-verbal language, it's the verbal language, it's all of that. And I think if if men can understand how to sort of the fundamentals of kind of the makeup of a woman and and her basic needs, and then actually be curious about how to figure out what it is that she needs in her style, in her love archetype, as I like to call it, then he can speak to her to her love language and fill her love tank. And the thing is that women are so generous, right? If you take care of her needs, and to be honest, it's not a lot. Men assume that we expect this grand, gestures. We actually don't. It's the little things for us. It's the cup of coffee. It's the I love you text. It's the flowers that come for no reason. Those are the things that women take notice of. It's not the big stuff. And men assume doing something big grand gives you 100 bonus points, but actually with women, no matter how big or small, it's 1 point. So if you can keep that in mind and just do the little things each day, which takes 10 to 30 seconds, and continue that consistently, she will do anything for you. So I have that program at 6 weeks. So you can reach me at www.jeanellgreene.com to learn more about my program. And if you have any questions, you can actually reach me through the contact form on my website.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. I'll make sure that I include all of that in the description box for our audience to see. I encourage you guys to go ahead and reach out and check things out and see how you can benefit from these details. Jeanell, I really appreciate you being here again. Any final words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom before we part?
Yeah. Let your love and your commitment be stronger than your ego and your pride.
Well said. Really like that. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
All right. With that having been said, I want to make sure that you guys, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and click on subscribe so you can see our future episodes as well. And in the meantime, uh, just keep doing what you're doing, keep thriving, and make sure that you take advantage of what's available to you and connect both to your family and loved ones and the resources that are available to you. So long. Cheers. Thanks, Janelle.
Thank you.